everybody. This is Karen from Sew and Save, and I'm here at the Ponderosa in my sewing studio today on a hot summer July afternoon, and we are working on month 7 of our Sew What block of the month. And this year we're using the Build a Quilt workbook by Deb Heatherly, and we're making kitty corner blocks and all kinds of other blocks to make a beautiful quilt. So I hope you're sewing along with us and hope you're joining us because we're having lots of fun and our blocks are turning out beautiful. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook at sewandsave.com, and we're also on YouTube. So make sure you follow us on all of those platforms as well. So this month we are working on page 13 of our workbook. We will be using this month the kitty corner ruler, as well as our Quilt in a Day ruler by Eleanor Burns. And we use this to cut half square triangles and things like that. So we're going to use that this month. So let's look at the fabrics that you need to cut. Well, let's first look at our block. So here's our block for this month. You're going to have kitty corner blocks in the corners, a single block in the center, and then Y blocks in the middle of your top, bottom, and side rows. And Bailey has just come to say hi. Say hi, Bailey. Good girl, you sit up there. Except now, you know what she's gonna do? She's gonna start chewing on my thread. So we're gonna wrap that up so that she doesn't chew on it. See, she's chewing on it already. We're gonna wrap that up and she can join us and she will just sit here and watch what we're doing, won't you? No thread for you. All right, so let's look at what we're doing. So you see our block up there, and here's what you need to cut for this month. From your background, you're going to cut 4 rectangles, and those 4 background rectangles are going to be used as the B units in your kitty corner blocks. Then you're going to cut a large rectangle or a large square. I can't pet you right now, Bailey. No, I can't. Okay, we're going to cut a large square, which is going to be cut in half diagonally twice to be used in your Y blocks. Then you're going to grab light blues. Whoops, those are my light blue squares, but that's not actually what I used. We're going to grab 4 light blue squares, and in mine they're tan because those are going to go along with your background rectangles to make your kitty corner blocks. Bailey, you are in the way to make your kitty corner blocks. This is going to be the kite part of your block. Okie dokie. All right, she was sound asleep until Joe turned the camera on. Then we're going to take and make, here we go, we're going to make teal blocks. Those teal blocks are light blue in my block, and those we're going to cut in half diagonally once, and then you'll end up with 4 triangles to use in your Y blocks. Alrighty, then you're going to cut 2 dark blue squares. This one will go in the center of your block, and then the large one you're going to cut twice diagonally twice to be used in your Y seam blocks. So these rectangles, or these squares, are all going to go together in your Y blocks. These 2 will be used over here in your kitty corner block, and that little guy is going to go right in the center. So get cutting. Once you get everything cut, come back. The first thing that we're going to start out with is our kitty corner block for this time around. So see you back here in a couple of seconds. First thing we're going to do this month is make our kitty corner block squares. So we're going to take our, what they're calling light blue in your instructions, mine are beige, your squares that you cut, fold them in half diagonally once to make your unit A pieces of your kitty corner block. So I have all of my little kite pieces folded in front of me. I have the folded edge to the left. I'm going to line up A, the dotted line of A, on that folded line, making sure that I have this point of my ruler right up to the point of my little kite pieces that I'm going to make. I'm going to trim that off just like this. We're going to do all 4 of those. Lining up that dotted line of A in step 1 with the left folded edge of the square that I trimmed or folded. So we're going to cut all 4 of these at once. I have a nice sharp blade in my cutter today. Here we go. I'm going to set these aside. This goes to the scrap bin, and then I'm going to open these up on my board to take over and sew. Okay, come on. There we go. Here we are. So these are going to come over here because we're going to add our pieces pretty soon. The next thing you're going to do is grab your background pieces. You have 4 rectangles, and we're going to cut that using step B on your ruler. I'll put this one this way. That one will fit better that way. All right, so I have all of these stacked with the right side facing up and toward me. I'm going to take step 2 and line up this edge, or the solid line, along the left edge of my rectangle, making sure this little dog-eared section of the ruler runs right along the top of my rectangle. And then I'm going to trim those. I'm going through all 4 layers because I know that my blade is nice and sharp. Then I'm going to flip my ruler to step 3 and line up the lines into this little corner right down here and make a little dog-eared corner on the bottom of that block. And that is, as you well know, after 5 months, this is month 6, that this is going to let everything line up really nice, and you're going to get a really pretty block when you're done. I'm going to pull my board close to me, and I'm going to take one of these now triangle pieces and line it up so that the dog ear at the bottom of the block lines up with the top of the kite. Just like this. Am I doing that right? Yes. So you can see how it's going to flip when you're done. Just like this. I'm going to go over and sew this at 1/4 of an inch. Yeah, man. Get that all nicely lined up. And then I'm going to press toward, away from, I guess I should say, away from my kite piece and toward that, my background piece. I'm going to stitch those, press them, and then we'll do the other side. We have the first side of our kitty corner block sewed on. So this is unit B, sewed on to unit A, the kite part, and everything is pressed away from the kite toward the background. Now we're going to add the other B unit onto the other side of our kite. Sew that at 1/4 of an inch and press it away from the kite as well. Just like this. Once we do that, we're going to trim up our kitty corner blocks, and they are going to be just perfect. I have my B side of my block sewn on. Everything is pressed very nice and flat away from that center A block, which is your kite. Now I have them laid out in front of me with the small pointy end facing away from me and the large part of my kite facing toward me. I'm going to use trim 1 of my ruler, and I'm going to line up this little itty bitty V that's on the ruler with the corner point of my kite, and make sure that my center line runs right down into the point of the large point of my kite. And then I'm going to trim both sides just like that. Ooh, that's looking good already. Make sure that this runs down to the center of your kite. This lines up with that little corner end, and trim. We'll do all 4 of these, and then we'll flip them and do the others. So here's this. Get it all nicely lined up. And trim. So it doesn't matter that my blocks are kind of kittywampus and not very straight right now, because look at, they're all going to be just nice and straight and perfect when I'm done. And one more. There we go. I don't think I got that very well. I'm going to flip it. It's a little bit hard to do it upside down and backwards so you could see it in the camera. So I'm going to kind of line that one back up again. And just trim this corner up nice. There we go. Get that out of the way. Now I'm going to flip my blocks over. Grab my cutter, which I left open. I'm going to close that up. And I'm going to use trim 2 to trim the wide section of the kite. And I'm going to line this up on the 4 on our ruler. And I'm going to double, triple check that, but I'm pretty sure, yep, that's exactly right. So line up the 4 along the edge that you've already cut, which is your small pointy end. And off we go. We're going to square those up, and this is a 4-inch finished block. It will measure 4.5 inches unfinished. The ruler is set up to do that. So you don't have to think about it. Right there. Oops, I just lined it up with 3.5. That would not be good. We have one block that's too small. Grab this edge and one more edge over here. And our kitty corner blocks will be done for this month. And there you go. Close those up. Set aside my kitty corner block or ruler till next month, and line these beautiful blocks up and save them for later. Get those out of the way, kind of get my scraps out of the way a little bit, because we're going to do our next section. So we have a 4.5-inch square that's going to go into the center. We're going to set that off to the side. Now we're going to take our, oops, I've got these two right here. These two guys, my background, this is my background, and the other one is called dark blue. And we're going to cut these in half. I'm going to line them up nice. Grab a straight edge ruler right here and cut these in half diagonally twice. Like that. Don't move anything. I pick it up and I kind of line one of my lines on my ruler down the line that I just cut, and then the straight edge of the ruler right down to the other points diagonally running through there. So now I've got these guys all cut and ready to go. Then I have these two teal blocks is what they're calling them, and we're going to cut these in half diagonally once. So I get 4 of these when I'm done. So I'm going to line that up nice and trim that diagonally. All right, I'm going to set these triangles aside for the minute, and then I'm going to lay out these other blocks to make that, they're calling this a Y block. So when I lay this down, I'm going to lay them so that the background is on the left side and the dark is on the right side. Okay, so I lay them out in front of me because you can kind of go around and around and around like this a little bit until you figure out exactly how to get those. So I'm just going to kind of line them up on my board like this. So I'm going to go over and just sew this straight edge. So I'm lining it up on my board so that when I pick them up to sew them, I'm going to sew all of these right hand side edges. So background on the left and dark side on the right. I just flip over the navy blue, or they're calling it dark blue, over here just like this. Now, we're not going to worry about this too much because these blocks are going to end up larger than what we need when we're done, and we're going to trim them up. And I'm going to show you a couple ways of trimming those up when we're all done. But we're going to sew 1/4 of an inch on each edge here. So I have it all on my board so that nothing gets flipped around and twisted by the time I get it over to sew. I now have these sewn and pressed. I pressed my seams open. You can also take and press your seam to the dark side if you like. Whatever puts you in your happy place. There's no right or wrong on that. They're super easy to press. Now we're going to add our, this is called, I think, the teal triangle on here. And you can see that this is not necessarily really pretty. I've got a little bit of something going on there. It's not going to matter because these are going to be too large and we're going to trim them down. So what I try to do is get the point of this triangle kind of on the seam so that it's not like over here or over here, so that it's kind of lined up in the seam in the middle. And then kind of try to get this flat. If these two edges don't line up, don't worry about it. It's going to be fine in the end. So kind of line up my seam up there and then kind of get my bottom lined up. And we're going to be stitching along that long edge. And then again, I'm not sure if I can press these open or to the teal or the light blue side on mine. I think I'll probably just press it to the teal side, but we're not going to press these right away. You're going to come back and I'm going to show you how to trim these up before we do any pressing. I have all of the big triangles stitched onto the smaller triangle side, and I laid the blocks so that the seam is facing me, so that the seam of the two small triangles is facing me and the large triangle is against my cutting mat. I'm using my Quilt in a Day half square triangle ruler to square these up. We're going to square them up on the 4.5 inch mark so that when we cut these, the unfinished size of these blocks will be 4.5. I'm going to take this center line that runs through my ruler and I'm going to line that up with that seam right in here. And then I'm going to line up the dotted 4.5 inch line on my ruler here along the line that I stitched on my blocks. So I'm going to line up the 4.5 going straight across my seam line and the center line going right up that seam. And that way those are going to go right into the corner of your block. And I'm going to get those out of the way. Pick up my ruler, set it down, line up the 4.5 along the bottom, and then the center line along the seam that I pressed open. So it's really easy to see that line because I pressed it open. But I think you're going to be able to see the line just as easily if you pressed it to the dark side. Get that all lined up nice. And I think I'm just going to press these to the dark side as well on my block. There we go. And you can see how much extra I had left over to trim off. So it doesn't matter if you're off. And then when I open this up, it's going to be perfect. So I'm going to press this toward that darker side and away from the seam side. I'm going to do that, and then it's going to be time to put our whole block together. Okay, I have these all nicely pressed, and I pressed my seam toward the big triangle. And I'm going to clip off these little dog ears that are on the side. They bother me. So I just take a little scissors and trim those off so that they're out of the way. And I kind of take them, I usually take them over to my garbage can and I go like this, all the way down. And then flip it and then do the other side, all the way down. There we go. Gone. Alrighty, now we're going to get the big board and we're going to line up everything. I'm going to start in the center with my plain black. Then I'm going to lay out my Y blacks. Look at that. It's going to be great. Let's get it that way. Here we go. And it was nice that there wasn't any right and left on these. We made them all going the same direction. So you can make it going one way, and then it kind of spins all the way around. And then the big edge this time goes to the center. The big part of your kite goes to the center. Just like this. And there you go. We're going to go and sew the top row together, the middle row together, and the bottom. And I would press everything. I think I'm going to press toward the center here and then out on these. And then I'll sew my other rows together and I'll have my whole block done. That was a fun block. I'm just wondering what it looks like if we flip it this way. Nah, I don't like it as much. It's got to go this way. Sometimes you can flip them and they still look good. See what happens if you go this way. Sometimes it's fun just to spin things around and see what it looks like. Yeah, that doesn't look good either. I'm not liking that. It has to go this way. Sometimes you can spin things around and they look fun and you like them, and I just go, oh, I want it to go that way instead. So we're going to go like this. I think I have, nope, I don't have him right. He's going to go this way. See, I shouldn't have started flipping things around. There we go. Perfect. All right, I'm going to sew this together and we'll take a look at our finished block for this month. And here is your finished block for this month. It is awesome. So I press these seams up, out, and then these seams in, these seams out, and then I press these seams towards the center. So everything is laying nice and flat. It looks great. I love these blocks. I thought I was going to feel a little stressed in making those because you want to make sure they're going to be perfect, but they are.